Yes, to replace this. Okay, so sure. Save unknown error API all seems first quite multi. Okay, so there's an extra space. Let's remove this, and now this should be done. Access is public, so we have got it publicly accessible. Properties. Let's execute this one. So we have got hello world. It is loaded, and you will see we have got this page loaded.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Just send the code in chat box.
On avatar Vishal. Okay, Vishal. For the JSON document, you're asking?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Uh, okay, so make a change in the resource name. So ARN number, resource number should be different in your case. Rest will be same. So as we can see, this is working fine. So if I'm going to write it slash error.html, even if I'm going to write it, I'll be looking whether it is working or not. So error.html, that yes, this page is also working fine. So that means my bucket is public and I'm able to process it within the bucket. So this is done. Let's move back. Okay. So now what I'm supposed to do is I I'll move to the again my code. Share the entire screen. Visible, yes. Now we'll move on to the uh, node s3 index.html. We need to make a change. Let's remove these comments. Let's save this file. Now index file is saved. Let's try to upload once again. Let's move to the objects upload. Now along with this, I need to upload an now since this extra page has got uh, we have, and within this document you will see we have a extra page.html is also there, that is required. This script will be running and it will go to the extra page.html and it will display entire thing within the same page. Okay, so we are going to upload the extra page.html also. So let's upload two files, updated index and one extra page.html, both the files. Done. Now if I'll move on to this, and if I'll refresh this, now you will observe the extra page has been successfully loaded. So that means my extra page is working fine. And even if this is from within the same origin, so even if I write extra page dot html, they should be able to load my extra page. So extra page has been successfully loaded. So up to this point, everything is working fine.
Sir,
Mhm.
please send the extra file code.
Extra file, okay, okay. ठीक है बेटा, एक second. One, and if I need to have another one, extra page. Then make sure you save this with an extension .html. This is the extra page.
तो ये कोड पूरा नहीं है,
कौन सा वाला? ये वाला?
मुझे फर्स्ट वाला yes sir.
Course. Okay. रुक जाओ बेटा फिर. Just give me a second. Let me send the entire files.
सिर्फ व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में भेज
हाँ, मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. Let me send it into the WhatsApp. Where is the DevOps code? Okay. So whatever all the files are there, but I'm going to send all these files. Okay. So since I have uploaded index and extra page also, so both the files are uploaded, and extra page, this is working fine. Now let's try to create a new bucket. Give me a second. Please create a new bucket in the meanwhile. Let's move to the buckets. Create a bucket. Uh, let this be bucket versioning enabled. Done. Objects can be public. So move to this properties, make it a static website hosting, enable in the new bucket. Host a static website, yes. This is what you need. ARN number, we have got this already. And the next thing is we need to move to the permissions, and if we move there, we'll see this is forbidden. So what we need to do is bucket policy. Here I need to write the bucket policy. Now I'll go to the previous bucket and copy the policy from there instead of writing once again. And let's change the ARN. Okay, so this is done. We have got this sorted. And if we go to the properties now, if we'll refresh this page, still will not be able to. Error 404 not found, because index.html page it is not able to find. Why? Because within this bucket, new course bucket, if we'll see under the object, we have not uploaded anything. Let me try one more thing. If we'll remove the statement ID, done. Here also. And so done. We have got this bucket which is public. Now the next thing is we are supposed to upload the file. Which files? We need to extra page. Let's try to upload in this bucket. Key is not found. And now extra page is done. This is done. Okay. So what I'm supposed to do is, if This is from the course bucket. If I'll do it like extra page, or HTML, we should be able to get it within from the different bucket as well. Yes, this is working. Now the last step is let's move to the bucket original one, and let's try to remove this extra page from here. And extra page is deleted. Let's close this. Now there is no extra page in here, and if we go to the original bucket properties, you'll see there was an error. We are not able to get the extra page. So even if you type here page HTML, was an error. We are not able to get it. So now we are moved to course. Let's try to do it. Let's move to the course bucket. Go to the properties, and inside cross region resource sharing, so it can make a request. So let's move on to the code, and hides the JSON document. So this JSON document, let's paste it here. Allow cloud headers authorization methods get. What is the URL's first bucket? Okay. So we'll we are supposed to place the original URL. So before this, so extra page is not loaded here. S3 bucket, and now we are going to go to the index.html, and let's change the code slightly. What instead of this extra page.html, let me try to put the code. Now in this page, what I'm trying to put is we're trying to put the page that we have here. कोर्स बकेट के अंदर एक्स्ट्रा पेज है. So go to the properties, and this is working. So copy this entire code, which is from the different bucket, and post it here. extra page dot html. So let's save this index file now. So this is the new URL instead of this. Now what I'm trying to say is that okay, this is my web page from the main. Now if you want to fetch the extra page, go to this hyperlink from the different bucket, and there is a name with the extra page.html, and fetch it from here. So this is what we have written. Let's close this and let's move to our original bucket, the main bucket, original bucket, and let's try to upload the index. Let's try to upload one more index file, the updated file. Okay, let's try to upload this. Now this index file is uploaded. Now once this index file is uploaded, so now we are going to load this page and let's see if we are able to get this. So we should from the different one. So we are not able to get any of the error. So we are going to do is still we are not able to get this. Now move to the last step is move to the bucket course and permissions. Paste if the cross or region complete this code, and we are supposed to paste the URL here. Okay, here I am supposed to mention the URL. And then let's move to the original bucket. So this is the original bucket, and if we type here, we are able to load this. Finally, from this bucket as well, we are able to get the extra page. So this is loaded perfectly fine. Run. So the topic that we need to start next one is Let's try to start the next topic. Okay, so this is what beta we are going to start now. That is the cloud front. Now, what is this cloud front? Beta, cloud front is used in all those cases that even if you are not defining any JSON document, in that case also you'll be able to view the page. So let's try to reach what is actually this cloud front all about. So now you can see here it is written. So cloud would stand for the content delivery network. Now, what is going to happen if you look onto this diagram? Let's suppose this is Australia. Okay, so this is Australia, and you have S3 bucket which is present. Now, by the way, these all yellow are the availability zones, and these are the different regions. And there is a bucket which is present in the Australia, and there is a person which is present in the Asia, and there is a person which is present in the America. Now, these are the two persons, those who want to access any of the contents from this bucket. Now, you can imagine from America, if you want to access any of the contents from the Australia, so the distance traveled for the content is going to be huge. So with the distance, there comes the latency. Okay, so there will be the loss of the signal if data needs to travel for so long distance, and moreover, if the data is going to be huge, in that case, this is going to be really very difficult. So what is the solution? We'll have the solution is CloudFront. So CloudFront stands for the Content Delivery Network, which is a CDN, called as a CDN. So what it does is it copies or it stores the data in the cache memory into the near location to this Australia. तो ये क्या करेगा बेटा? This is going to make a copy. This is going to have a cache memory, and within this cache memory, this availability zone will send the data to the availability zone which is near to America, not directly to the user. This availability zone will send a data to the availability zone which is near to the current location, so that whenever user is going to place certain request, they can access it from the nearest possible zone. So in the same way, if from Asia, if someone wants to access the data which is in the S3 bucket, they are going to copy the data to the nearest availability zone, so that the it gets copied from the nearest availability zone, so that every time this user is going to make a request, it need not to travel all the way to Australia to get the data. So it can fetch the data from its nearest availability zone, which is going to be somewhere here. Now, the data will be traveled with this data from S3 bucket from Australia to the nearest possible zone. This will be traveled with a very high bandwidth using the internal network by the AWS. Okay, so the internal network of the AWS is going to be used for transmitting the data from this particular bucket to the availability zone or the cache memory, which is a very closer to this particular location. So what it does is it improves read performance. Content is cached at the edge location. Okay, so edge location, the closest location, the blue color is the edge location, so it sends the data that way. So we have total 216 edge locations, or the points of presence globally, which is called as the edge locations. So total there are 216 edge locations. So wherever you want to access the data, it will be sent to the nearest possible location. Okay, and denial of the service protection, what is going to be happen? So this is going to enhance the security. But suppose let's imagine there is a person in the America, this is Australia. If you are going to send the data on the public IP, so there are lot of chances that the data may be stolen from in between, so data will be misrepresented. So there are a lot of security concerns when the data needs to travel in such a long distance. So there is a the DOS stands for the denial of service protection. So you'll get a denial of service protection. That means there will not be any case where you'll get a denial of the service. So always the data will be present. Integration with the Shield, AWS web application, firewall. So these are the few of the security mechanisms that are being provided internally in the network of the AWS. That is not, the data will not be traveling to the public network. Okay. Now can expose external HTTPS and can talk to the internal HTTPS backend. So the data, obviously, if there's if are sending a data across such a large distance, so they needs to have a communication channels through which the internal data can be communicated to the external one. So that can be done using the HTTPS secure channel. Coming on to the next one, the CloudFront origins. Okay, so from where it is going to get origins. The first point is it gets origin from the S3 bucket. So the cloud fronts can be used with the help of the S3 buckets. For example, for distributing files and caching them at the edge location. So you are going to distribute the files present in the S3 buckets and you are going to cache them at the edge location. That means temporary. These cache locations are these are just a memory which is a temporary in the nature, which is extremely fast. Okay, so which is in the edge locations. Now it have enhanced security with the CloudFront origin access identity. So that means how this, now let's suppose there is a one person sitting in the example. I was saying if data is going to travel from this point to the edge location somewhere in the America. Now, when this user wants to access the data from this edge location, the data is going to be protected with the CloudFront Origin Access Identity (OAI). Origin Access Identity. It is going to protect it by that. So that means only the intended user or the only the CloudFront will be able to access the data, not every other user. So the CloudFront can be used as an ingress to upload the files to the S3. So you can upload the various files of S3 to the CloudFront. Second, once you now CloudFront, we were discussing the origins where we can use this CloudFront. तो पहला point तो बेटा उसका आता है कि we can use the CloudFront with the S3 buckets. Second आता है कि custom origins. Okay, so even if the data is not present in the bucket, but you want to replicate the data to the multiple origins or the edge locations, in that case also you can use the CloudFront, but you need to specify some of the important point कि आपको application load balancer specify करना पड़ेगा. You need to specify the instances, S3 websites, any HTTP backend you want. So these are the few of the informations that you need to specify if you're not using the S3 bucket, but if you're customizing that who should be able to access the data that I'm going to send across the network. So these are the few of the things that you need to be specified. Coming on to the next one, now you'll have a very good understanding of the CloudFront by looking onto this diagram. Now, better let's suppose this is going to be the client. This is a client, and of course the clients needs to make a request that suppose it if he wants to access then data that is an website example.com. Okay, now this data is going to be, maybe it is not present in the nearby availability zone, so it is present in the S3 bucket, or it can be present origin can be. So we have discussed two types of region, or it can be S3 region can be there, or it is present in the HTTP physically a server, physical server, that is वो server that is present on to your on premise, तो आपकी कंपनी के अंदर सर्वर प्रेजेंट है, you that can also be used for the CloudFront, or the AWS S3 bucket can be used. Now example.com may not be present in this very availability zone, so what it is going to do is, so edge location, this client is going to request to the edge location. So this is going to send a request to the edge locations that okay, I want to access the example.com. So now all the edge locations, 216 edge locations are connected worldwide. So this edge locations is going to send the signal. So forward request to the original. So it is going to send the request to the origin that okay, so do you have the access to the example.com? So is the static website hosted on the origin S3 bucket, or if example.com is hosted on this physical server? So if whatever the response you will have, include query strings and request headers while sending in here, and of course you will get a response from the this any of the 216 edge locations. You'll get a response. The moment you get the response, you will see it is going to be cached locally. So this local cache means whatever the data for the physical whatever the data for the website that example.com is being looked for by this client in the S3 bucket, the same data will be copied to this temporary memory storage, which is a local cache. Okay, so the next time the client wants to access anything from the example.com, beta you the request will not reach to this point. Client will move a request to the edge location. Edge location will move a request to a cache, and from cache the response will be sent back to the client. So the the speed is going to be improved in much better way, because the data is present and the nearby edge location instead of the different availability zone. So that is the benefit of the cloud front. Are you able to get this, beta? Is my voice audible? Are you getting this? Are you getting this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is CloudFront, and let's move and see. So this diagram again, CloudFront and S3 and Origin. So let's see how we are going to have this. Now this is everything written is AWS cloud, or whatever is written in this box is going to happen within the AWS cloud. You will have the Origin S3 bucket, and within this S3 bucket, let's suppose we have the example.com. Now these are the different set of users sitting on the different availability zones. So let's suppose better these two users are in America. First two users are in America. Last two users are in, let's suppose, Europe. These are in Australia, and these are in India. Okay, so we have bunch of different users that are present all across the world. Now of course, if the user is connected at the end point, it will be assessing the service using the public IP address. So public www.example.com. So in the same way, public www.example, यहाँ से भी example, यहाँ से भी example.com. So we have got all four different the people are setting all different origins. And by the way, it is given already. This edge location is close to the Los Angeles. This edge location is close to the Sao Paulo, and this edge location is close to the Mumbai region, and this edge location is close to the Melbourne in Australia. Okay, so people are connected from all across the world. Now you need to understand, if all these are the edge locations, so there are only four edge locations which are shown here. These all edge locations are connected centrally. All 216 edge locations are connected centrally, and these are connected with the private AWS network, because everything within this square box is a AWS cloud. So they, if edge locations wants to communicate using the S3 bucket, so it will be communicating privately to the AWS network. So it will be in a private IP address instead of public IP address. Now this bucket may be connected to all the availability or all the edge locations. So whenever any of the customer wants to access this request, they will send a public IP address, will send a request to the edge location. This will move on to the origin bucket, copy the content from the original bucket to the edge location, and from within edge location it is associated with the cache memory. Okay, so each edge location is associated with the cache memory, and they are going to get the data from here. Now you will observe what is this OAI. We have just discussed OAI. So what is this OAI? OAI is the origin access identity. Now how we can make sure that anyone, this is the, let's suppose, origin and S3 bucket policies there. This is the OAI, the policy that is being implied on the S3 bucket. So it needs to make sure any of the edge locations that are requesting for the service, they are authorized to get the data. Okay. So why is it so? Uh, there can be a lot of example. Let's suppose this is this is the bucket, and within this bucket we have got a very confidential information related to defense budget or anything related like that in this India. Okay, so Indian defense budget or Indian confidential information is present in this bucket. Now you tell me, if someone one of the edge location which is present the Los Angeles, will that be able, should America be able to access the data which is present in this bucket, which is confidential data of India? So answer is no. So that means it's not always the case that every edge location by default will be able to access the data present in this bucket. So there are some kind of access specifiers, so that needs to be specified, and these edge location needs to have the access policies, then only they'll be able to access the data from this public. So origin access identity is one such policy, and once of any of the edge location is going to satisfy this origin access identity policy, only that edge location will be able to access the data present over the network. Okay, now coming on to the next one. So this is probably the last slide before we move on to our management console and practice the cloud front. Now you'll see how actually the things are going to happen. So beta, there's a people, they make a request to the edge locations. you, and this edge location using the public IP address is going to be there with the edge locations. So they send the public IP of edge locations to the security groups. Okay, so EC2 must have the this EC security group must be having some of the IPs which is going to take the public IP address of the client, and which must specify the private IP address. Okay, so it must have the private apps. EC2 instances must be public. So this security group is publicly accessible by this edge location. So these are public and this is also public. Both these things are public. Now once this is done, beta, before it gets access to this one, so what is going to do is this security group, it internally it has some the private IPs as well. So this using the private IP address, this is going to go to the load balancer, and for the load balancer this is going to get an information, and all these things are going to be connected, and once they have got the answer, and they'll be moving on to the, they'll provide the response uh, to the customer. So basically what it's being there, so this is case number one and case number two. Two cases are mentioned here: CloudFront ALB application load balancer, or EC2 as an origin. So how the things are going to be different if we are going to use the application load balancer as the origin, or if we are going to use EC2 as the origin. So first case, this EC2 is going to be as the origin, so you request the service and you get the response from here. And in the second case, this is the people, the edge location is the public IP, send the request to the load balancer, and which in turn can be privately requesting the answer to this EC2 private instances. So this is how the things are going to work. Now we'll have this point, we have already restricted CloudFront geo restrictions. That means geographically there are restrictions that are applied. Not every edge locations will be able to access all the data. So this we have discussed already. So you can restrict who can access your distribution. Whitelist and blacklist. There are two concepts. Whitelist is the allow the users to access the content only if they are one of the countries in the list of approved countries. तो वो हमारे पास हो गया white list. And you can blacklist, prevent the users to accessing the content if they are one of the countries that are the blacklisted or the banned countries. You can specify the blacklist and whitelist, the countries that can specify, that can use the CloudFront as a service. The country is determined using the third party geo IP addresses. Now how the restrictions, geo restrictions, you can answer how the edge locations, or how will be identifying that which IP address is coming from Australia, which IP address is coming from the America, and which is coming from the India. So using a third party geo IP database, from this will, this is by the way the third party, from this will be tracking that the IP address that is coming from, whether it is coming from Iraq, Iran, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, from anywhere across the world, from where that IP address is coming. So you can use the copyright laws to control the access to the content. So of course we can do that first. Then we'll have the cross region replication. Okay. So we have the CloudFront and the cross region replication. So there's a distinction. बेटा हमने यहाँ पे discuss की है that we CloudFront is going to temporarily cache the data, the contents into the cache memory near to the edge locations, versus S3 cross region replication. Why can't we copy everything to the availability zone which is near to the user? So there are two things: either you can do the CloudFront, or you can have the S3 cross region applications. Now both of them are going to have a different cases under which you should perform this. बेटा कौन से केस में अंदर आपको S3 का क्रॉस रीजन एप्लीकेशन करना चाहिए, and under what condition you need to use the CloudFront. Okay, so it is written here the CloudFront, this works on the global edge location networks. Okay, files are cached for the TTL, time to live. Okay, so files are not permanent here. So in the CloudFront, files are cached for the time to live. TTL means time to live, maybe a day, for maybe 1 day or 2 day. The files will be present onto the edge location, then it will be deleted automatically. So it is great for the static content that will be available everywhere. So if the data is present in the S3 buckets, and you know within 2 days you are not going to change the data, but then you can use the CloudFront. You are going to the send the data into the cache memory, and it will be used for the CloudFront. Okay, but the second case is the cross region replication. Where do you need to use this? Must be set up for the each region you want replication to happen. So if you want to have for Mumbai, you need to set up the cross-region application for Mumbai separately, for Australia separately. That means every time a new location you're going to have, you need to set up it separately. That's the first difference. Second difference are files are updated in near real time. But यहाँ पे क्या है? These are static content, so that doesn't make any difference if you're using the cloud front. But in S3 cross-region replication, suppose if I'm going to make a change in one of the region, that will be reflected through all the regions. So files are updated in the near real time base. So if you are having very lot of dynamic data that will keep on changing every time, so in that case, so it is better to use the S3 cross region replication instead of CloudFront. Okay, so you can have only the read only access policies there. Great for the dynamic content that needs to be available at low latency in the few regions. Okay, so why is it written in the few regions? Because this cross-region replication is not a global service. It is applicable in the few of the regions. CloudFront hands-on. Okay, so let's try to see the CloudFront. So what we need to do is we'll create a S3 bucket. We'll create a CloudFront distribution. We'll create an origin access identity, and then we'll try to limit the S3 bucket to be accessed only using the identity. Not everyone will be able to use it. Only the origin access identity that we are going to allow, only that is going to be there, that is going to use it. Okay, so let's try to move to our management console. Better take a break of 5 minutes, then come back. We'll start with the cloud front within 5 minutes. Okay, take a 5 minutes break. Okay, so better let's get started with our topic. Okay, so let me share the screen. So we are going to practice the cloud front. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so I hope my voice is audible. So we'll need to move to, am I audible? Yes. We'll move to S3 and we'll need to create a bucket. Okay. Let's create another bucket and let's keep the name of the bucket as demo cloud front. Let's suppose I'm going to keep this as a name of the bucket. Let's have everything here and let's keep everything like this and create a bucket. Okay, so bucket is created. Let's upload the let's upload the objects into this. Let's upload beach, coffee, and index. Done. So I've uploaded 3 files. Okay, so we need to move to this one. And in index.html, if you click here, you will find the object overview. So you'll find the object overview. Object URL you will have got. This is the demo CloudFront Sahil V2, and then south, and we have got the this page. Okay, so this is done. And if I'm going to click on here, you will find that access is denied. So as of now, the access is denied. We'll click on here. So CloudFront, we're not able to have access right now. So let me copy this URL and open it in different browser. Sustain done. So So this is not opening, but if I'll click on this open with this one, we are able to see this. Okay, so why we are able to see this like this? Because if you'll see now, options is if you click on the object URL. So this is demo CloudFront Sahil dot this one. If you'll click onto this, and you will not be having any of the content here. So this is denying the access. Okay, so this is denying the access. But the moment you open from this tab, you are able to get the web page, because the predefined credentials are going to be loaded in this URL, and you will be able to get the data from here. Okay, so this is done. So that means content is available, but using the CloudFront we are not able to have access to it right now. So what we are going to do this, so let me close this one. Let's go to the CloudFront. So I need to go to CloudFront service. Okay, so you have got this CloudFront Global Content Delivery Network. Click on this. Okay, so this is a global. You'll see. Uh, you need not to select any of the region for selecting this feature. So CloudFront, this is a global feature. Okay, so this is a global feature, and let's create a CloudFront distribution. There are few options that we need to have it. Okay, so we have opened the interface for the CloudFront, and we need to create a distribution. And on the origin, you will see the origin. You will have the multiple origins in the S3 or the load balancer. The two origins that are present. So you can use the S3 also, or you can use the load balancers. Automatic load balancer is there. Okay, so you can choose anyone. So we have just created demo CloudFront Sahel V2 S3. So this is one that we have just created. So I have chosen this one. Okay, and or you can even specify the path. This is optional. You can specify the path if you have it. So name is clear, and don't use. The next one is don't use OAI. So we have studied already what is OAI. This is the access identifier. So that we have seen here. So you can specify here like this OAI, if whether you want to specify for the security or not. So you have options here. So you can do not click, or you can yes, but I'm going to click on yes. I need to have the OAI. Bucket can restrict the access to only CloudFront. So if I don't want any other person to open this apart from my bucket, only bucket will be able to use it. So in that case, so you can click on yes on I want to enable this option. But if you want to enable this, you need to select the origin access identity. So do I have the any origin access identity? No, I do not have this. So let's create a new origin access identity. Okay, so access identity demo CloudFront automatically created. Let's create this one. Now once I have created, now you'll see automatically we have got one of the identity. Okay, so this is done. The next step is we need to select the bucket policy. So the bucket policy, no, will update the bucket policy. Let's keep it as it is. So you can update the S3 bucket policy to allow the read only to the this policies. Okay, origin access identity. So you can define the bucket policy. So if you'll click on yes, if you want to click on yes, and you need to go
And CloudFront here in the bucket policy under the permission sections, you need to, you see there's a bucket policy is empty, so you need to update this bucket policy. Okay, so you can do this. So that's the only thing. Let's move on. And everything is done. Keep scrolling and you'll have one option. uh, yes, that's a default root object. Okay, so you need to specify the default root object and default object file name to return when a viewer requests a root URL. So I'm going to specify here index dot. Okay, so that's done. And let's click on create distribution. And last modified, this is still deploying. This might take some time to deploy. So we have got distribution domain name CloudFront. Let's deploy this. But this might take certain time. 1 से 2 मिनट लगेंगे to deploy this. Let me refresh the page. This is still deploying. But let it get ready. Let it be deployed. Then we'll start. Okay. Okay, so beta, this is deployed now. Let's see. So, but I hope you can see the screen. So CloudFront is properly deployed. CloudFront in the distribution. So it was deploying. So last deployed, it is there. And now when you move on to the distribution domain name, that means not from the any particular bucket. So not from the S3 bucket. So this is I'm executing the from the CloudFront. तो अब यहाँ से बेटा जब ये URL कॉपी करेंगे डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन डोमेन नेम तो CloudFront से copy this, and once you are able to execute it from here, you will see we are able to execute it perfectly. So I love coffee, hello world, and you're getting this image. So that means now even if I'll show you, so beta isko agar aise ही रहने दो, and if I need to show you that if I'll go to the see demo CloudFront, go to the buckets. Now you'll see one point that even if I'll go to the demo cloud, and you will observe that this particular demo cloud Sahil V2, this bucket is not public. Okay, this is not public, and moreover, I have in the permission section, I have not even written even the bucket policy. पहले बेटा वहाँ पे empty था. Now you'll see automatically we have got the bucket policy, and within this bucket policy principal के अंदर बेटा आप देखो who principal के अंदर we always specify the star that everyone is allowed to do this. But this time, because this is automatically generated, read the principle that AWS who is able to access this bucket. So ARN CloudFront user CloudFront original access identity, this one. So this is one of the identity CloudFront identity. The bucket my demo CloudFront Sahil V2 bucket, who is able to access only this particular the distributor with this particular ID original access identity is able to get this. Now because if within this CloudFront bucket I have got मेटा इसके अंदर मैंने index coffee and beach, there are three files that are present here. So if you'll go to this CloudFront, so this is the ID which is authorized to check this. So even if you'll go to this, and if you'll copy this and open this, you will be able to see. Okay, so even you'll be able to see the beach. So this is CloudFront, and if I'll slash, if I'll say coffee coffee dot html, so give me a second. So you'll be able to get the data. Beach dot jpg, so this is a jpg file. So see, this is working from the CloudFront beta. Yeah, from within the CloudFront I am assessing the contents which are present in the different bucket. Or you can write even coffee dot jpg, and you'll be able to get the coffee as well. So both the things are working absolutely fine from my CloudFront. Okay, so this is done. The next thing that we need to do is, now you will observe better the important point that we have discussed while we were discussing this PPT. I have told you that if this particular user from the Los Angeles wants to fetch anything from the bucket, it is time consuming because there will be high latency. Both of them can be in the different parts of the world. But using the edge locations, if you're going to use the cloud front, so you'll be able to get it in a low latency, and it will be in the cached value. So this particular value that you are getting here, so this value I am going to refresh this every time. I'm going to refresh from the cloud front, but these requests are not going to my bucket. So these requests are not going to this cloud front. Instead of that, it is this particular my distributor cloud front distributor is going to respond to this. Okay, so this is response by the distributor. So this is one of the very important point, that is that we need to understand. Okay, so we have seen. So let's move on to this one. We have create S3 bucket. हमने बेटा cloud front के S3 bucket बना ली. Then we'll create a cloud front distribution. We have created a distribution. Then we create the origin access identity, which is also done. Then we have limited the content which is present in the S3 bucket, like coffee image, beach image, and the index page. We'll limit it to be assessed only using this origin access identity. Okay, so that is being assessed only by this identity. And we have seen this already, that even if I'll go to this point, and in the properties, if I'll, or even if you'll go to any of this, let's suppose if I'll go to the objects, if I'll go to beach. Okay, now try to understand. So this is from within the bucket. So this is from within the bucket. If you'll click on this particular hyperlink, so you are not able to access the data from within the bucket, but this jpg image for the beach and everything, this is available to be accessed from the cloud front. Okay, and you can check this, because we have within the policies, within the bucket policy, you will find that the uh, only this is allowed. The bucket is not allowed to perform any of the operation, and only cloud front origin access identity OAI with number, this one is allowed to perform the job. Okay, so this is done. So this was another topic. Then we need to discuss the some of the more topics, but let's remove this. Okay, so better rest of the topics will be starting in our new session. Okay, let me take an attendance before we can wrap up the class. So don't leave the classes. Better let me take the attendance first. Okay, so better we are done with the attendance. Okay, so this brings us to an end for our today's session, and tomorrow is the Friday, and we'll discuss this cloud in the tomorrow's class. And tomorrow, probably tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I'll be assigning you with the second assignment. So this is the fourth week, end of the fourth week, and I'll be assigning you the second assignment, and then we'll be left with only one last week of our this training. Okay, that will be our last week, is the fifth week. Okay, so this is all for our today's session. So thank you for joining the class, and we'll see you in the next one. Okay, so thank you. You can leave the class.